NFL Sunday Ticket allegedly moving to YouTube TV.
Mm-hmm.
Just your initial thoughts. I'm a huge Sunday Ticket guy. There is nothing I'd rather do than fire up the Traeger smoker on a Sunday.
I want it.
Bang some wings and pizza.
Whoa.
Well, Zach Wilson's mom's friend and stuff.
Are people myring?
Fire up the Traeger.
Fire up the Traeger, and then there's nothing better than flipping around and watching NFL football all day.
Okay, here's the thing that I don't love about this. For a DirecTV customer like you and I, this is another subscription fee we're going to have to pay. Don't love that. Don't love that. Do not love that.
Me and you.
Right. Okay, sure. Whatever.
For DirecTV customers like you and me, I don't love it. I don't love it. And I'm a huge DirecTV guy. Are you going to buy Sunday Ticket through YouTube TV? And here's a larger question for you. Pull up your undies here, boys. Would a deal like this, would a YouTube TV style deal save the Pac-12? I think this is a huge question. And I think it's one that's got to get answered because we continue as we head for Pac-12 Media Day, which is now just 3 days away.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to get news on the Pac-12 this week? And the question I think that remains is what can the Pac-12 do to survive? And would a TV deal like one with YouTube TV be enough to save the Pac-12? Now, if you go back to 2018, 2019 perhaps, at Pac-12 Media Day, Larry Scott sat right in front of you and me on this very show and said, oh, yeah, we're working on it. We're in the heart of Silicon Valley. We're talking.
Yeah, it's going to get done.
It's going to get done, and it didn't get done.
By the way, that's on our YouTube channel. Go find it.
It is. It's in our archives. If you go back and look at Pac-12 Media Day, Larry Scott is there.
Yeah.
But my point is, I don't think that's enough to save the Pac-12. If you are the 10 teams that are left after USC and UCLA leave, and I'm not saying that's the case, but let's surmise that it'll be those 10 teams. And you do a $1 billion deal with YouTube TV. You're telling me that that's going to get you $100 million a school per year? No, it's not. It's not. Because I think we all recognize that that's limiting your audience, and it is a specialty platform. And you are now, if you are the Pac-12 about to be Pac-10, you missed the curve on doing a digital deal like this.
Yeah.
That was 2020. That was 2017 when you should have done a deal with YouTube TV, when you should have done a deal with Amazon Prime, because nobody watches Pac-12 Network. Nobody knows how to watch Pac-12 Network.
Yeah.
Most people can't get Pac-12 Network.
And nobody is going to put in the time and effort to go and figure it out. That's the problem. That's the thing here. Like, like, when people weren't going to football games because of the thing we're not allowed to talk about, that was the window. Hey, listen, nobody can come to our games right now. We need to get on their cell phone. We need to get on their iPhone 13 Pro Max. We need to get on their Android. We've got to be there. They have to be able to easily consume the content that we're putting out. And that, to me, was what was so disappointing. It wasn't disappointing to me that Larry Scott basically lied to us at Pac-12 Media Day. It wasn't disappointing to me that this conference has been going the wrong way for several years. I have no allegiance to the Pac-12, but what is disappointing to me is Larry Scott's poor decision-making is costing programs like Utah their livelihood. Utah is now in a place where they have to figure out, where the hell am I going to go? Like, are we getting to the Big 12? Are we trying to somehow make some entrance into the SEC? Like, what are we going to do? Like, everything's on the table. And that's why I say when we talk about saving the Pac-12, the issue for the Pac-12 has always been that it's very difficult to find your product. And I'm not going to get, Pac-12 network on Dish. I'm not doing that. I want it on my smartphone so that I can get it anytime I want. That's the world we live in. That's why the show is growing so much. That's why when we make this crazy announcement on Friday, it's going to blow your mind, right? Like, because it's right here. It's here on your phone, in your hand every day.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that college football has forgotten.
Yeah.
I think that's something that college football needs to understand. Greg Hawkins gives us a $5 tip. Greg, appreciate you very much. He says Pac-12 research money dwarfs athletic money by order of magnitude 10 times. The conference will not fold, but they need to increase their athletic revenues in order to become competitive. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think Greg, I think your point's exactly right. I mean, and I think we've always known this, but the priority is not winning sporting events in the Pac-12. For Pac-12 presidents and institutions, Stanford is no better example than this. They don't care about your ability to throw a football. They care about your ability to become a research practitioner, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. That's the bottom line. At USC, I think they're a bit of an outlier. But I also think at a school like USC, they want you to become a major Hollywood director more than they want you to become a major NFL quarterback. Mm-hmm. Well, we all know that USC doesn't put NFL quarterbacks out, but that's not really the point.
Right.
The point is, I agree with Greg Hawkins. The priorities in the Pac-12 are not to win football games. Is that right? Is that noble? Is that in line? I don't flippin' know. In the parlance of this conversation, it's broken for college football. And I think ultimately it could lead to the exodus of a very good educational institution in Utah.
Facts.
And probably Washington and Oregon. And I again don't understand how the Pac-12 is going to survive.
Yeah.
The only way the Pac-12 survives, and the only way you take a step to survival, is today, right now, you add San Diego State. That's the first step. And the second step is, I think you have to go and find a way to poach a team from another conference. I think if you're going to add a Boise State, you better go and do it, because there's nothing. And even if you add San Diego State and Boise State, you add the blue turf.
I want it.
I don't know that that's enough to get the deal done to make you viable as a conference.
Yeah.
I don't know that it is. And I don't feel like the Pac-12 can survive, because, John Wilner at the Bay Area News Group, I thought, put out a really smart piece about Pac-12 After Dark being a very viable commodity. And I think it is. Honestly, I think Saturday night football, not Friday night football, Saturday night football in the Pac-12 is very viable. It's very valuable. It puts a million eyeballs on the television, and you can argue, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. It's not a matter of argument. It's not does it. It has. It's performed at a very high level, and we've seen some really good football. But it doesn't matter. You get a million people because it's the only game in town.
Yes.
The SEC's done playing football at that hour. Everybody else is done playing football. They're back at the dorm. They're back at the office. And you get Utah and Oregon. You get Kalen Clay dropping the football at the 1 yard line.
God.
Right? Like, you get moments like that are absolute insanity. You get big upsets. You get BYU and Arizona State.
Yep.
And what I'm telling you is, you get a million viewers. There's commodity. There's value in that. And if I'm the Big 12, I'm trying to take that value by adding Oregon and Washington and San Diego State and Utah and Colorado and anybody else that wants to come with, because I want that late game window. That's how I get to Fox. That's how I partner with Notre Dame and do a TV deal with, NBC to get Notre Dame remains independent. And there was this story last week that Notre Dame had kind of, smittens with each other, where Notre Dame and the Big 12 would go to NBC and say, hey, Notre Dame football wrapped around Big 12 football makes you money. You can pay.
You guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
Notre Dame, $75 million a year for their football contract. And then you can pay the Big 12 $100 million a school for their football contract. That's how deals get done. Is Notre Dame working with NBC on a Pac-12 deal? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does Pac-12 After Dark mean that Notre Dame makes $75 million a year? Methinks not. Does BYU and Utah, the late game in the NBC window after Notre Dame, make you a ton of money and bring 5 million viewers to the screen? Yeah, it does. Does a Rose Bowl rematch between Ohio State and Utah bring 16 million people to the show? Yeah, it does. See what I'm saying? Like, Where is Utah legit? I think it was 16 million people watched the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Where's that number in the Pac-12 today? It's got to be USC and somebody else, right? It has to be. Who's the somebody else? Because you're not an attractive property to schedule against, which is the other thing that nobody talks about. What SEC school is breaking down the doors in the Pac-12 outside of, hey, we need a win? Better call the Pac-12. Like, in all honesty, what SEC team, what even ACC team is banging down the door of a Pac-12 school saying, hey, man, we need to get a future series on the books? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Now that USC and UCLA have left the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, now what? Because Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC and the Big 12 survived because they were able to add a property like a Houston, like a BYU. They were able to add a Cincinnati. They were able to add teams. Pac-12 hasn't been able to do that yet, Jake, and I don't think they're going to be able to.
Yeah, and I think that they're basically going to need a handout to be able to survive, honestly. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's what it's going to take. You're going to need help. You're going to need assistance. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it. This is the price you pay for not bringing in revenue. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do with that. Fat Jesus, good morning to you, friend. He says, prediction, ASU wins the Pac-12, the Pac-2 in 2025. Forks up.
Bet you weren't expecting this one.
How sad is Herm
You see
Edwards?
what he did there? You see what he did
Pac-2.
there? The Pac-2.
You know, they'll be independent.
Yeah.
They'll only play each other 9 times a year.
Right.
It's a sad situation in Arizona State. What's going on with Arizona State football and Herm Edwards and
It's not great.
I don't even know how you explain that. Honest to God. I don't know how you explain that.
And as you can see, I'm going through some shit right now.
Cam Harrison says Pac-12 should sign a TV deal with Peacock TV.
I don't know, man.
Good luck.
I think it's got to be more major than that. I think it's got to be more substantial than that.
But see, my point is, we already know that the Big 12 and Notre Dame have been trying to do something.
Well, it makes sense.
But
for them.
If it puts you on NBC, it puts you on USA Network, it puts you on the Peacock app. Like, you have avenues. Like, that's a TV deal.
That's better than Dish Network. I can tell you that with all due respect. It is better than Dish Network and Pac-12 Network.
Yeah. Greg Hawkins says people watch Pac-12 schools when they actually play on a real network on a normal time slot. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If you're stuck on the Pac-12 network after dark, it's the kiss of death. It's over. It's over. It's absolutely over. NY Jazz fan says you might start to see NCAA football create their own streaming in the future for fans that cannot get the teams. I think you have to.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Fat Jesus says, I think Pac-12 After Dark exists on the internet. $9.99 a month from what I hear from a friend of a source.
Yeah, you're talking for a friend, right?
Could be. NY Jazz fan says maybe they already do. BYU TV. Could be. Absolutely could be. Brett Robbins says, deal is ready to go if the Knicks give 6 picks. I would agree with that.